Hi everybody, I wanted to go over the informative speech assignment with you briefly, just to hopefully explain it in a little bit more depth and give you some guidelines and guidance. So I'm going to start by sharing the screen. As you can see, I've got it pulled up here to our Blackboard page, and I wanted to start by briefly discussing the informative speech outline with you. One of the most important things that I can tell you about the informative speech outline is that you should look at this section of what is in the assignment instructions and make sure that you follow it pretty closely. I need to see a clear introduction, a body of the outline, and a conclusion. Each part has its own separate things that need to be included as well. So in the introduction, you need to include an attention getter, which is effectively a way to grab your audience's attention. The second is an establishment of credibility. This is when you explain to your audience why you are qualified to talk about the subject you're covering. Your next part is an explanation of audience interest. Tell the audience why they should care. Why should they listen to this speech on this given topic? Next, you want to have a statement of thesis or a thesis statement. This should be one sentence that effectively answers the question, what can your audience expect to learn after listening to the presentation? So this does not need to include specific statements of your main points, but this is kind of the big picture, broad overview. The actual specific statement of main points is the very last part of the introduction. That is the preview of main points. Sometimes students get confused and they will write the two in reverse. So make sure that your thesis is one sentence that's broad and your preview of main points specifically lists out the main points you'll cover in the speech. Once you've done that, then you can flesh out the body of the outline. Now this is going to include main points, subpoints, and sub-subpoints. That can include quotations, direct citations, references to other materials, just whatever information you're putting in the outline, like in the main part of the speech, that needs to go in there. You should also include a transition sentence between each main point. That is very, very, very important. Students will forget to say them if they're not written out in the outline. So please make sure that you are sticking to that guideline. Now I say here that you're required to have 3 main points. If your speech really only lends itself to 2, that's okay. But really for this presentation, I highly, highly recommend 3 main points, no more. Let's talk about the conclusion briefly. This should have a review of the main points of the speech. So it's really almost the opposite of the preview. If you said in the preview, I'm going to cover point A, point B, and point C, your review of main points here in the conclusion would say, I am going to cover point A, point B, or I just covered, sorry, point A, point B, and point C. Along that line, the restatement of the speech's thesis should remind the audience what they were hoping to learn from it. Do not copy and paste exact. Rewrite it a little bit so that it's more engaging and a little bit different, and also tense appropriate. It should be past tense at this point. The last part of your conclusion is a clincher. This is the very last thing your audience will hear. It can be an anecdote, a statistic, a quote, some kind of call to action, but something that sticks in their mind, at least helps them remember the presentation. Now at the very end of the outline, you should create a separate page, and that should be your reference sheet or your works cited, bibliography, whatever you want to call it. This should be completed in APA style. I've got some guidelines here for you. You can click on the Purdue OWL website, just make sure you're looking at their APA section. I also have on the left-hand side here a couple of links. If you click on APA Citation Help, that can really give you some more guidance. So this outline is due Tuesday, September 1st. It is worth 10 points of the total speech assignment. I give feedback on outlines And I strongly suggest that you take that feedback into consideration, that you change your outline slightly or significantly based on what the feedback is. And then that is the outline you will use to actually deliver your presentation. So let's talk briefly about this informative speech assignment, and hopefully I can give you some more guidance here. The informative speech assignment is an opportunity to inform your audience about a particular topic. You all have already submitted your topics and I've given feedback on all of them. I'm really excited about a lot of the topics you've chosen. I think we're going to have a great round of presentations. So what you're going to do is for about 4 to 6 minutes, you are going to speak about this topic. Your presentation should be structured like your outline. It should have an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. And you should have at least 3 verbal citations during your presentation. That means that you say, according to this source, da 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 da, you know, give the information. In our department, we really like to teach that you provide 4 different pieces of information for each one source that you're referencing. Let's say that you have pulled up a newspaper article from the New York Times. Perhaps you're giving a speech about coronavirus. You would say, according to the 2020 article, 2020 is a date, article in the New York Times, that's the publication place, number 2, written by, you know, a trained, you know, health reporter. There's another piece of information. That's a credible person. They've got a lot of experience with it. And then provide the name of that author. There's your 4 pieces of information. So you want to make sure that you're including that not only in your outline, but also whenever you verbally cite your sources. You need to have, like I said, at least 3 of those in the presentation. They can come at any point. The easiest thing to do is to have 1 per main point of your presentation. All right, so backing up a little bit, this is an informative speech. You're providing information to your audience on a particular topic, and you're speaking for about 4 to 6 minutes. Try to hit that 4-minute time limit. Try not to go over that 6-minute time limit. That's the sweet spot. You've got about 2 minutes of wiggle room there. And that's really important that you pay attention to that guideline. You should practice extemporaneous speaking when giving this presentation. That means you are not going to read from your outline the entire time. You're also not going to memorize the speech either and try to recite it from memory. You will have your outline, which is short phrases, keywords, and then you're going to look down and know, okay, what part am I supposed to be covering now? And then just talk about it. So getting really comfortable and really familiar with your topic is going to be the best way to do this. And then practicing several times is going to help you feel comfortable speaking more conversationally and more naturally about your topic. Please use the outline. Please use the outline. I do not like note cards because students can easily get them out of order. An outline is much harder to get out of order. It's typically, you know, 2 pages. It's pretty hard to mess that up. As I said, you're going to provide at least 3 verbal citations. You're going to be informing. And then I've talked about this with a lot of you. Please speak to an audience. For our program, it is important, it is required for all of the sections that students speak to an audience of 10 or more people. Obviously, given coronavirus concerns, I don't want you to put yourself in harm. If you think that you're going to have a hard time getting an audience of that size together, send me an email and I'll give you some further guidance on what we'll do. So things that I'm looking for in the presentation: good delivery skills. I want you to maintain eye contact with your audience, not necessarily the camera, but the audience that you're speaking to in the room. I also want you to make sure that you're speaking loudly and clearly and slowly. Try to stand tall, try to act like you're enjoying yourself, even if you're not. It's a good way to project confidence. And then of course, make sure that you are using, you know, hand gestures when it's appropriate, and you're not using too many verbal fillers like the words so. A few of those are going to be natural. Everybody has them. Try not to use them excessively. Make sure that you film this speech and you upload it just like you did for the introduction speech. You upload it to our wiki no later than midnight on Wednesday, September 9th. It would technically be 11:59 p.m. So you have the end of the day to get that uploaded. There's no requirement at this point for everybody to comment on each other's videos. That being said, feel free to watch each other. You are going to be engaging in a peer critique that I'll assign at the end of the week. So it might be helpful for you just to kind of see what some of your other students are doing. One last note, you don't have to have a presentation aid for this presentation. So please don't stress yourself out trying to get together a PowerPoint or a handout or anything like that. Focus on doing the presentation, practicing the skills that we're talking about here. And that's really what I want you to focus on for this assignment. So hopefully this helped offer a few clarifying points. If you've got any other questions, please feel free to let me know and I'm happy to help you. All right, have a good one.